The Black Ice Chronicles Massive. This is Crazy Dee. I'm standing here with Franklyn G. How you doing today, Franklyn?
Great as always. Thank you, sir. You?
Oh, great, great, great. A little heavier after
Mm,
celebrating the massacre of Indians.
true that. That's what it is.
But you know, on these conscious talk programming or this conscious talk programming that we're doing, we always endeavor to pass on information to the next generation that goes on to the next generation, to the next generation, to the next generations, so that we will come out with a better conclusion than what a lot of us feel if we keep going down this same track that we're going will happen. You agree with that, right, Franklin? That we're here to make sure that we have a better outcome.
Definitely. By giving the information needed to make us stronger in those hard times.
Okay. So we've had some people on this platform. We had Brother Keedy.
Brother Keaty's a bad man.
That's right. We had Pharaoh.
Young Pharaoh's a young brother, bad man still.
Bad man, bad man. And then of course we had the Central Park Five.
Right? Mr. Yusuf Salam.
That's right. That's right. So in these aspects, we want you to go and watch because what you will find when you speak to different people who have conscious thought, they may say it in slightly different ways, but it's still moving us towards a higher level of understanding and knowledge. Would you agree with that?
In agreement again.
Okay. So now, reading through Brother Keaty's book, uh, which brings up this topic today, how long will we worry about those who appear to not care about the knowledge of self? Farrakhan many years ago, maybe 15 or 20 years ago, did a analogy of the black community and said there is a planter and three-fourths of the planter is infested with weeds and one-fourth is still good, and he equated to scooping out that and putting down fertile soil and letting the one-fourth cultivate and grow. He equated that to what we needed to do. Now this was 20 years ago. So in that aspect, how do we um, uh, logically, or maybe I should say logistically, do that where we begin to stop worrying about those who don't want to move in a conscious, they enjoy being around white people who are in power in government in social standing, or they enjoy on the other end enjoy living in poverty and let it be a generational to generational thing. When do we and how do we go about separating ourselves from those who do us harm, but yet we work to advance our people?
Whoa, that's a lot. Well, the collective is Minister Farrakhan and Nation of Islam is already doing that. They have already removed if you will, in the planter, the individuals he's working with is the one quarter that he believes, or the whatever number it is that they have within the black community that they can develop. So effectively, what he's done with his organization and the Nation of Islam, if you're not part of that planter, you may have been something else before. They're going to refer you and make you part of this new fertile soil that they're bringing forth in mind, body, and soul. And that works for large members of our community in terms of what they do in the repatriation of prisoners back into society, or those who have actually feel disenfranchised. That's what the Nation of Islam is. They work within that field. They're removing Africans, if you will, from the larger planter, usually at to their own device, so to speak. Because I said they have big prison chapters, they have big people who are outcast, and other individuals who just haven't fit into into American society. I almost said natural society. I'm meaning about natural about American society. But we do that in our lives anyway. And I mean, it's like the original allegory of there's a group of say everybody lived behind a wall or in a place where you couldn't see beyond, and then you saw smoke. Would you go and investigate where that smoke is originating from? Many of us would not. They're like, I'm happy here, I'm comfortable here. But some of us will. Some of them, and that's not even a black thing. That's a human thing. Someone will go out and investigate in what that is, and possibly find out what created fire, how to harness fire, how to become a unit with fire. So unless you want to go out and expand, which is what happened with Columbus or any of these other expansion through descent, if you will, because some people are happy. Like a lot of people, I'm happy. I ain't got nothing to do with Africa. They're happy. I'm not. I'm not. I don't identify with this. They're happy. Uh, those who want to go a little further and say, well, I recognize that all the people who look like me come from this region of this country, this continent, if you will. So I identify with that. But everybody doesn't. So it's that allegory. Would you be one of those ones in our black community who's trying to make it better? Would you go investigate the fire? Would you be willing to work with individuals who need a second chance? So I believe that theory happens, and he's probably doing, as I said, I believe he's doing it already. And everybody don't make it. That's the reality of it. I mean, I don't know why black people, or even, I'm just gonna make it black people. I don't know why we think we are gonna make it. In Africa, you hear a lot of young brothers. We was kings and queens. Nah, there's only one king. If you're lucky, maybe a couple of tribes. Or one queen, or if you're African, maybe a few queens. But everybody, they were workers. They were builders. They were doctors. There was the garbage man. There was the local bum. There was a totality of society that exists even in these confines. So everybody doesn't make it. Everybody doesn't have the same strata. But enough of us need to collectively understand and go and investigate what is beyond the wall. Whether it is, like I said, original man, whether it's fire, whether it is beyond the wall is being educated, whether the beyond the wall is being an athlete or a singer or whatever it is. That's what makes those Michael Jordans in us. That's what makes those Dr. Kings in us. That's what makes Malcolm Malcolm. That's what, because they've gone beyond the walls of the natural impediments that are, whether it's racism, sexism, crime, drugs, rap music, teen pregnancy, economics, lack of food, a lack of parenting, lack of love. Those are the walls we need to go beyond as a community. And if we could get that perspective in each and every endeavor that we have, where there are those walls, because those are the same walls that keep us apart. Same thing, spirituality between what is the natural Muslim or Muslims, or even the Nation of Islam, and Christianity and Judaism and Buddhism and Rastafarianism, and whatever it is, those walls keep us apart. Are you going to?
That's where I'm going.
Right.
Okay, so Minister Farrakhan has done the planter aspect. What about the other groups who are pushing? I mean, like the whole conscious community. There's many different variations as there are shades of us
For sure.
as people.
We know that.
Right, right. So where do we start to say, okay, well, everyone doesn't make it? And we say, well, we need to just go with the groups, if it be people who are Christian or people who are Nation of Islam in particular, or Orthodox Muslims, the Pan African movements, the Marcus Garvey movements, and all the just subsects of that, the W.E.B. Du Bois, the Booker T. Like, where do we draw the line and say, okay, this is enough us trying to put out this information? Let's just deal with advancing, and then everyone else will advance as the ones who are conscious advance? Or is it an elitist, or would that be considered elitist, like what you talked about on your show today?
Well, it happens. We see that even in the conscious community, those who have PhDs who were taught and earned those letters at institutions that we now know own slaves. And just because you teach at Harvard or have a Harvard degree doesn't mean you haven't undergone some type of industrialization of the consciousness you need. Because there's different stratas and everything. As you said, even within religions, you got T. Jakes all the way to my man Dr. Fowler here in Las Vegas. Great preachers, two different mindsets. They work in different things, but they're working for the betterment of the community and good of individuals. So I don't know if everything has to be together. Why do we think that everything has to be together? As we think about the original concept, all the tribes weren't together.
Yeah, right. All of them weren't together, but in this society, in the system that we're in, of white supremacy, it can be detrimental if people are on one mind state of saying we're not going to sell each other out.
That's the issue. But religion isn't binding us. Even finances doesn't bind us. Love doesn't bind us. I don't know. Like, to go back to the concept, why do we all have to be together? In the understanding of the original man, having just traveled to Egypt, they all traveled there. They did their business and they left. They went back to their regions. They took spices and gold and, as we know, treasures and things. I don't know why we think we all have to be together. Can't we just all be friction orientated, that every molecule in the universe is in constant flux? It's always moving. But there's an adjustment to it that makes it real. It makes a solid building. I mean, concrete and stuff like that. All of those things can be working together while working against each other. We know that a large bridges and even buildings, they're built on pressure and the way it's supposed to be applied that evens it out. That's how you get skyscrapers. That's how you get expansion bridges, through the spreading out of the tension, all working against each other, so to speak. But no place is actually more resistant than the other, which keeps it straight. It's a little engineering. But I don't know if man is supposed to be like that. Can it just be everybody in constant flux pushing forward at whatever level it is? Because all good things don't work together. Right? I mean, we got people who are in good places who don't work together. We know sometimes that they say, even to me, there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. There's a balance. So we have to try to figure out what that balance is. All these groups we talk about working for the betterment of individuals, a lot of them, like you said, don't have, or we talk about, they don't have the integrity or the ideology to really see it through. They don't have the desire to see it through. They have a fear instilled in them. Some people don't want to challenge the system because they're happy where they are. Like the guy says, oh, why would I go look over there when I'm happy here? I'm content in this space that's been granted to me, accepting the fact that, again, I don't know if everything has to work together. You know, I mean, you have high blood pressure and things of that nature, and they're trying to lower it. And we know that African Americans naturally have a higher blood pressure for whatever it is, in diet or lifestyle or stress and all of that. But they survive with it. How many older people do we have in our community? You know, oh, I'm on my blood pressure. They'll be 80, 90 years old. And then the guy will have blood pressure problem and die at 40. It's the stress and the balance in that person's heart and everything that keeps it together. But everything's working against them. Because, you know, some people like in our community say, oh, I don't want to take those pills. They'll make me sick. You even see when they give you, oh, they're going to give you this to make that better, what the side effects are. There's no balance. In man, the individual, in terms of our chemistry, in terms of our psychology, our physiology, why do we think we all have to be together? We could just all be together working in a good context to work.
Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, that's balance. We're unbalanced, we're imbalanced, but yet we can have balance and the things working together. Okay, so what does that exactly look like? Okay, if we have people who are in the middle, who we discussed, who sell out, people at the top who sell out because they want to stay in their position. Each person, each level, if it's the house and then the barn and then the field, but then within each one of those you have different perspectives of people who are within the house that are in the field, people who are in the barn who are in the house, people in the house in the house, right, right. So or people in the house who want to help or be in the field to make change, right? So where is this balance? That's what we need to get to. So if we don't forget a group of people or pull out, as Farrakhan said, pull them out and put fertile soil in, what do we do?
Well, again, it goes back to the context that probably we all don't make it. Some make it, some don't. But at the same time, in those levels that we just discussed, there has to be some interconnectivity. And that's what happens in other communities, the Asian community, the Jewish community. They're touted for that. I mean, even if you watch shows like now, they'll have whole shows in America today with no black people in it. How is that possible if you live in a major city? Really, how's that possible if you live in America? There's at least 12 of us in every major town. You know what I mean? But those kind of things will be successful. The black image is removed. And there are no blacks at any of those levels in decision making policies or even along the line to incorporate blacks. But yet they're still successful. That means they don't need us. So why are we trying to be involved? Like I said, the interdisciplinary. If they don't need us, why are we trying to be with them? Why are we trying to fit into those different levels? Blacks at an interconnecting level will be assisting to all blacks, theoretically. We have that, it doesn't work. So I don't know, again, it goes back. Do we all have to be together? I'm believing that, as I said, because our physiology is always in function and trying, you get this upset stomach, you eat something wrong, you purge it, you work towards getting better. So I don't know if that's answering the question, but I'm believing, again, that's accepting the thought that everything has to be, or everybody's working together. And I don't believe that ideology really fits us in the contemporary, my mindset now, because everything is in flux and we respect that. It's about physics and energy. So why would we want to make everything agree? Why would we want to have a unified black kind of thing? The fact that we have dissension when there's keeps pushing us forward. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
so what you're saying is the dissension that we've had back with W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, and Booker T. has pushed us along to this point.
Theoretically, because we've learned from each of them something, and those individuals didn't get along. Dr. King and Adam Clay Powell didn't get along. We had people who didn't get along with everybody as you look at it. But through now, as we look at it, we pushed it a little. They pushed the envelope, so we pushed that envelope to try to tell our leaders to get along. We try to tell them not to have public debates where they, curse each other out the way those guys did, whether it's in letters or correspondence. We try to be a little bit better in disseminating the information they have. So even though they were and those individuals, like I said, W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, were in conflict. Malcolm and Dr. King, not in apparent conflict, but theoretically in conflict. It pushed the whole thing forward. So again, we don't all have to be on the same page. We just got to be able to a point that it balances each other out. If you don't want to talk, as I'm sure they said, you could talk to Dr. King. If you don't want to talk to Dr. King, there's the Black Panthers and Malcolm. Somewhere in the middle, we got these elected officials. Not saying it was Dr. King like or Malcolm like, but they used both edges of that sword to balance it out. So the same thing goes again. They wanted to see what's beyond the wall because those were walls. So now we know that all these great people had conflict within themselves, pushing the same great agenda, pushing black people forward.
So, in closing, we can say balance through imbalance.
That's just like the human body, just like the human body. You can be great at sports, and I mean you can play a great game, and one injury could separate you from that. That's the wall, and that's what makes great athletes come back. Michael Jordan hurt himself. He came back. He was still great. Muhammad Ali had the impediment where the government said, you can't fight anymore. He still came back. We're waiting on Mike Tyson to come back, but he's already back because we love him. You know what I mean? But there are impediments in our body that that keep us in balance. I don't know if any unit, I mean, even with the Jews, the Orthodox Jews don't like the traditional Jews, don't like the, whatever group it is, it's in constant conflict. The fact that we have those conflicts, we need to try to figure out how to harness them to push us forward. And that's what I mean. I don't know if everybody has to make it because there's only really one king, maybe 3 or 4 queens if he has a great empire. But in this kind of society, you got to figure it out that the balance that we don't have is because they're not working together. They're working at each other for the greater goal of many times the individuals who are in control of the organizations.
Okay, so that's where we will leave it today. Social media.
You can always check me out at Like It Is Radio on Facebook. We got our Black History Month program in full flex. We got Professor, Dr. Renoka Rashidi. We got Professor Amira Asher Kwesi, who I went to Egypt with. We also just got Baba James Small. We're going to talk about the movie 1804. You can go to Like It Is Radio Nation and check us out on Facebook. Like It Is Radio on Facebook. See all the dates. It's here in Las Vegas. Come get some black knowledge just like sunshine. Rub it on your face. It's good for you.
And what's the name of the series?
This is the 5th annual Kemet in the Desert annual series here in Las Vegas at the West Las Vegas Library Theater in conjunction with a few groups. And we also are saying if you come into town and you want to get involved with this group, you can reach us here at KCEP or just go to Facebook and Like It Is Radio and let me know what's happening, and we'll definitely get you in the place to be.
Okay, so that's it. So balance through imbalance. Stay tuned. The Black Ice Chronicles.